Hi guys, welcome back to Mr. Hescox's Life Science class. We've been talking about interactions in the ecosystem. We just finished up symbiosis. Symbiosis are types. One of those is what is a mutualism. A mutualism is a type in which both are benefited. Commensalism, on the other hand, is when one is benefited and one is unharmed. And parasitism, one of them is harmed, the other one is benefited. Today we're going to talk about some adaptations that kind of lead us through. Every time we talk about adaptations, I like to look at this picture here of our polar bear. Now, why do we look at the polar bear? Well, because they're so highly adapted. If you check out the adaptations of our polar bear, obviously you have this fur. Well, the fur is clear, and that lets sunlight through it. The skin is black underneath. Black absorbs energy. They have fur on their paws. They have thick fat for insulation. They have sharp teeth to kill their prey. They have claws to kill things with. So these are just some of the adaptations of the polar bear. So now that I got you thinking about adaptations are any trait that helps an organism survive in its environment. Adaptations are going to help you live in particular environments. Like having a thick fur coat is not necessarily an adaptation if you live in hot places like Mexico. And you're going to have your adaptations match the climate. So if it's cold, if it's wet, dry, different types of adaptations will revolve around the climate, whether it's temperature and or precipitation. Organisms cannot handle the wrong climate. Polar bears can't live in the jungle. You do not have to worry about being in Bellwood and having a polar bear walk down the street and eating you. But when you live in certain environments, you do have to worry about the different things that are adapted to that. A cactus has a thick stem that it holds water into. It has very thin leaves. Thin leaves prevent transpiration from water. Your opposable thumb. How many of you guys can give the thumbs up symbol? That thumb is opposable and allows you to touch all your other fingers. So the large primates all have opposable thumbs. And there is one common adaptation for not primates. Beavers have an opposable thumb on the bottom that actually helps them grab logs. The rest of these are just a few common adaptations. The first one, camouflage. As you can see, this leaf is super green and it's camouflaging this type of bug on the leaf. When you look like your surroundings, that is a type of camouflage. The spots on a frog can be camouflage. The spots on the fawn can be camouflage. They break it up. The color of a toad. Other adaptations, when you talk, there are all kinds of things that look like leaves. That's camouflage, trying to blend into your environment. The brown color of a bunny rabbit helps it blend into a field. You could have a protective covering. This porcupine has very sharp quills that help prevent things from eating it. Now, that doesn't mean it doesn't get eaten. It just means that people are less likely, or things are less likely to get after it. And then the cactus has these spines and quills as well. So those sharp needles prevent things from wanting to eat them. Warning coloration, a bright coloring that tells predators that the organism is poisonous. This is a poison dart frog. Warning coloration includes bees too, because bees are brightly colored. Then the last one that your book gets into is called mimicry. When we look at the monarch butterfly, the viceroy looks just like it. The monarch feeds on milkweed and fills up with these tiny toxins that makes them taste terrible to birds. The viceroy looks just like a monarch but doesn't feed on it and is not poisonous. The coral snake, red to black makes you a dead fellow. Black to yellow, you can survive. So This one's a king snake, not deadly. This is a coral snake, very deadly. But because they look alike, things leave them alone, thinking that this is as poisonous as that. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to the end of these adaptations. We're going to jump to the reading, and then I'll let you start your work. All right, guys and girls, we're coming back with the types of adaptations. Identify and describe some adaptations of organisms. An adaptation is any trait that helps an organism survive in its environment. Adaptations. Any trait of an organism that helps an organism live in its environment is called an adaptation. Adaptations also allow one kind of organism to live where other kinds of organisms cannot. Whales are adapted to life in cold water. They have thick fat, things that keep them warm. Some living things are adapted to cold environments. Whales that live in very, very cold environments have a thick layer of fat called blubber. Blubber helps keep the whales warm. Organisms adapted to cold environments would not be able to survive in a hot environment. A cactus has adaptations that allow it to live in a desert environment. Cactus has thick, leathery stems that store water. It also has spines. Spines are special leaves that keep a cactus from losing too much water. If you were here earlier, I said transpiration is the cause of that. Your thumb is an example of an adaptation. Your thumb can touch all of your other fingers. It is called an opposable thumb. Opposable thumbs allow you to use your hands to do many things. You can write, draw things, build things, and so on. Adaptations against predators. Some adaptations protect organisms against predators. These adaptations are part of evolution. Species develop helpful adaptations over time, then pass on those to future generations. Camouflage is one adaptation that protects an organism against predators. The more an organism looks like its environment, the less likely a predator is to notice it. Camouflage also helps a predator hide as it's trying to catch its prey. Some organisms have protective coverings that guard against predators. Look at the prickly pear cactus in 12-9. Its sharp needles keep herbivores away. Porcupines have similar protective covering. Have you ever seen a yellow jacket wasp? Its bright yellow and black stripes are an adaptation called coloration warning. Animals that use the warning coloration are usually poisonous. They use bright colors to warn other animals not to eat them. There's our poisonous dart frog again. The wings of the viceroy butterfly have very similar pattern to that of the monarch butterfly. By mimicking the monarch butterfly, the viceroy butterfly keeps predators away. So the first review question, what is an adaptation? An adaptation is any feature of an organism that helps it survive in its environment. To what kind of environment is a cactus adapted? Cacti are adapted to the desert, or you could also say very hot and very dry. Why is your thumb an adaptation? Your thumb is an opposable thumb that touches all the other fingers. What is a protective covering? These are spines, whether it's porcupine needles or quills on a cacti. How do organisms use warning coloration? Warning coloration says that, hey, I am going to be full of poison, and if you eat me, you will get that poison. How are camouflage and mimicry similar? How are they different? Camouflage is blending in with the environment. Sometimes you can mimic a leaf and blend into your environment. So camouflage could be a type of mimicry, but it doesn't have to be. Match each organism with the environment to which it is most suited. A snowy climate, well, C, polar bear. A desert, D, cactus. An ocean, B, octopus. A pond, A, frog. In a forest, E, raccoon. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that takes us to the end of today. I'll be seeing you next time. Until then, I'm Mr. Hascox. Be good, be safe. See ya.